In 2007, I published my book, Thanks for Choosing Love, which included the history of broadcasting in Belize and my autobiography. At the time of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II's visit to Belize in 1985, I was serving as Chief Broadcasting Officer of Belize. On the occasion of her passing, I will read the chapter from my book that reflects on that visit. A royal visit. In October of 1985, Queen Elizabeth II visited Belize. She arrived on the 9th and remained through the 11th. I knew that Edison Coleman's name had been submitted by the government to Buckingham Palace, and the Queen would award Edison Coleman as the media person during her stay, and thought that he would be put in charge of media coverage. But the office of the Governor General requested that I serve as media coordinator for the royal visit. I accepted the assignment and was made media coordinator, with Edison as deputy media coordinator. The other person responsible for media coverage was the Queen's press secretary, Michael Shea. I set up a media center at the Radisson Fort George Hotel and prepared a media booklet on the royal visit. It had all the background information a reporter needed. I recall our first media conference when I distributed the booklet and went through it with the visiting and local press, answered their questions, and then turned the podium over to Michael Shea. His comment was that there was little more he could say, as I had done an excellent job at briefing the media about the visit. The visit went well. The royal aircraft touched down at the Belize International Airport at 4:30 in the evening of Wednesday, October 9. The Queen was welcomed by Governor General Dr. Dame Minita Gordon, who then introduced her to the Prime Minister Manuel Esquivel and Mrs. Esquivel. On arriving in Belize City, Mayor Frank Lizama presented a key to the city at the junctions of the Belcan Bridge, Princess Margaret Drive, and Freetong Road. The following day, Her Majesty visited Dangriga, arriving there at 11 in the morning. Mayor of Dangriga was Francis Castillo. Queen Elizabeth then traveled to Belmopan and addressed the National Assembly at 3 in the afternoon. The state dinner was held at 8 that evening, followed by a state reception on the Government House lawn. At this reception, some citizens of Belize, including myself, were formally introduced to the Queen. On Friday, October 11, the private audiences and farewells were held at Government House, and the Queen went on to visit Orange Walk. The mayor was Alfredo Martinez. That afternoon, she visited British Forces Belize and left the Belize International Airport for Nassau, Bahamas at about 2:20 in the afternoon. While in Belize, the Queen resided at Government House in Belize City. She traveled aboard a Belize Defense Force Defender aircraft. The Belizean equerry was then Lieutenant Earl Authors. As media coordinator, I arrived early at every venue the Queen was to visit to make sure everything was in place for the press. We traveled from place to place in a British Forces helicopter, keeping a step ahead of the Queen. I had to make sure the microphone she would use was in place and working when she arrived. As soon as she departed, I hurried on to the next site. I carried a tape measure in my pocket to make sure the microphone was at the required height at each location. I did my best to keep the press fully informed of every detail. I let them know how Her Majesty would dress for the official functions and what the menu would be. Gibnut or agouti meat was chosen for the state reception at Government House. For the benefit of the visiting media, I put a picture of the gibnut with an explanation on the bulletin board. The reporter from a London newspaper, The Sun I think it was, asked me at one of the press briefings if the gibnut is a member of the rodent family. I replied, yes, it is. The following day, Michael Shea rushed over to me and said, Rene, you would never believe the headlines in London. Queen fed a rat in Belize. To this day, most Belizeans call the gimlet the royal rat, which has done nothing to hurt its reputation as a great delicacy. In Belmopan, the Queen had lunch at the Belmopan Convention Hotel and then was supposed to be taken by vehicle to the National Assembly to address a joint sitting of the House of Representatives and the Senate. A security nightmare developed when the Queen decided to walk to the National Assembly from the Convention Hotel through the crowds gathered in the market and Independence Plaza. Along with the head of security, we had to rush to try and control the crowd she had to walk through. And in my case, I had to control the reporters, photographers, and TV cameramen so she would be allowed to pass uninterrupted. So there I was, facing the Queen, with my back to the reporters, arms out, pushing them out of the way to make room for her to pass. Along with the head of security, we breathed a sigh of relief when she was finally inside the National Assembly. After the royal party left the National Assembly building, Governor General Dr. Dame Minita Gordon came to where I was standing and told me that the Queen had requested that I be one of those she was scheduled to meet in private audience the following day. I was not on the list of those who were scheduled to meet the Queen in a private audience, but I knew Edison Coleman's name was on the list. Waiting in line at Government House, I checked the list once again and saw where my name was penned in just in front of Edison Coleman's name. At the beginning of the private audience, Queen Elizabeth gave me an autographed portrait of herself and asked me to receive it as a token of her appreciation for the work I had done in connection with her visit. She noted that she had seen me everywhere she went. I replied that I was serving as media coordinator. She said she was told that I was doing an excellent job. I told her that I had first seen her at Trooping the Colours and Horse Guards Parade in London in 1974. She asked me about my stay in London and my studies at the BBC, and after some other brief remarks, the audience was over. Edison Coleman was next in line and was made a Lieutenant of the Victorian Order, LVO. Overall, Her Majesty's first visit to Belize went extremely well, and I will always cherish the opportunity to be a part of this historic event in the life of my nation. I thank you for joining me as I read verbatim from my book, Thanks for Choosing Love, published in 2007.